Welcome to ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast, aka CTP, in association with thelibertybeacon.com. And I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard, and that's Leonard. CTP is your no muss, no fuss, just me, you, and occasional guest type podcast. I really appreciate you tuning in. As Graham Norton would say, let's get on with the show.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast, Season 1, Episode 42, about voter ID. I want to show you a couple things first for those of you looking behind the scenes sneak peek video, Rumble, BitChute, Brighteon, YouTube. You can see I'm holding up a piece of paper here, which is a Judicial Watch poll they're conducting on Truth Social. Do you support voter ID? Well, of course, it's at 100%. The poll will end in the next couple of days because Judicial Watch is planning an article, apparently, regarding voter ID at the end of March. As I'm recording this is, let me look at the calendar, actually Monday, March 11th, I'm recording this after having taken part of this poll, but I'm recording this for April 6th early because I did reach out to Judicial Watch. A lot of people seem to think that voter ID is the be-all, end-all of an election integrity, and it's not. And I reached out to them because the point of the show is not to be about me. It's not about me just growing this show for the sake of saying, hey, look at me, my show has more listens than your show. No, that's not the motivation of why I do this. I do this, of course, because you and I need to get information out. And sadly, as I've said on the show, there's a lot of different places. Unfortunately, the national talking head parrots all parrot the same talking points and never really drill down into other things that are relevant and really matter, like you and I delve into here, and therefore we need to share with others. So yeah, of course, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to bolster the numbers of the show. But it's not about me. It's not about my numbers. It's about our ability to get these other things sub-points to topics like voter ID that no one else discusses out into the ether. And I did reach out to Judicial Watch that I am recording this show, producing a thelibertybeacon.com article for April 6th, also on voter ID, these additional points that I'm going into so that they hopefully will go into them also. Because again, it's not about me. Oh, exclusive. I'm the only one on the planet talking about this. No, this is about reaching others. And like the old Pantene commercial for the older folks who remember, they tell two people, then they tell two people, then they tell two people. Sooner or later, 1 million people are talking about it. It's become a national movement. This is the only way, well, not the only way. I, of course, talk to legislators and the like directly, and party officials directly. In the past, I was the originator of the Party of No talking point. You know how Chuck Schumer started calling us the Party of No. Well, my response to that, and through my friend Thad McCarter, who was in Congress at the time, we issued and started a Republican counter talking point of we are the Party of No, KNOW, because we know our history. We know better. That's why we oppose Democrats. We don't say NO to anything and everything they say just for the sake of saying NO. We say it because they're looking to undermine and destroy our republic. So this is about getting more people to talk about these things. And we do that by you liking, sharing, subscribing, helping the show grow, not to pad my numbers and my influence and my ability to boast. I don't do this. I'm not going there. Look at my numbers compared to yours. This is not what this is about. This is about you and I creating a ChristiTutionalist politics army to go out there and talk about these things no one else is. And now hopefully that I've shared this with you, you will be. You share it with others, they will be. I've talked to Judicial Watch. Hopefully they will be in their upcoming article. That's why they ran the poll of do you support voter ID? And of course, everybody answered yes. Those looking on video can see yes, 100% blue bar. Of course, we all support that. But it doesn't begin and end there. There is, as Paul Harvey would say, the rest of the story we need to talk about. The left is always thinking short, medium, and long-term con. They give to get at times, like the lessons of Reagan. I talked about the amnesty deal that Reagan allowed himself to get hornswoggled into with Tip O'Neill. And of course, they knew, the left knew all along, they would grant the amnesty, but when it came time to fulfill their promises and actually fulfill the bill, the act that was passed and signed into law by Reagan, they gave out the amnesty. They then, just conveniently didn't bother to put the money in the allocation bills for the border security. They knew up front they never intended to do that. It was a bogus, empty promise. Well, Bill Clinton years, the Motor Voter Act was another left sham bill, dodge, false, empty promises. The left wanted Motor Voter Act so that anyone going to the DMV for any reason will be able to check a box and automatically become registered to vote. Not overly objectionable. The problem, of course, is they knew they would take it one level further. And in blue cities, blue areas, they didn't bother to worry about whether someone checked the box. They'd automatically check the box. And now they also knew further down the road, to subvert voter ID laws, they would just sign up everybody as they did. But now in blue areas, blue states, purple states where Democrats control even, they passed laws, motor voter laws at the state level, allowing for free ID, right? They pretend to care about voter ID. That's not what they're doing. They, of course, made a provision so that now anyone and everyone without proof of identification or proof of residency can wander into a DMV in a blue area, proclaim to be anyone, and get an ID and automatically be registered to vote. No proof of citizenship, no proof of residency, no proof they are even remotely who they claim to be. They get an ID and are registered to vote. We on the right fail to think these things through and far enough ahead. It's like chess. Unfortunately, the left is indeed far better at chess politics than we are far too often. They're not just thinking about this pawn and that pawn. They are indeed looking at what the knight, the rook, the queen, advanced moves ahead are going to be so they can skirt and avert the laws they're willing to pass now to get rhino support so they can pass through Congress or a state legislature, knowing full well they will ignore or outright break the law or outright ignore the law. Such case being that Motor Voter Act. As part of the Motor Voter Act, in order to get some Republican support, because we want legal people to be able to easily be able to register to vote. But we wanted safeguards. And that safeguard was, and we got in the bill, that the left knew they were going to skirt and overt, was QVF, Qualified Voter File. That's the voter roll in each state. They knew, mainly in the purple states, that the presidency is really decided. And of course, this is more important than just the presidency. Each House race in every state matters. Each Senate race in every state matters. We have to get not just Trump returned to the White House, but a wider Freedom Caucus control margin in the House and control of the Senate, though it's not likely we'll get filibuster-proof control. And unfortunately, that means we'll have to rely on executive order where we legally can, because of course Obama and Biden have always overreached, overstepped, had to be struck down, issuing executive orders that are unconstitutional, outside the bounds of the rule of law Congress has passed and allowed the president to have. Meddling in things like the student debt transfer, that requires an act of Congress. Executive orders are valid when and only when and if it's the chief executive directing the executive branch and offices of government how to enforce and better enact or direct things within the legal rule of law and bounds as passed by the Congress and as limited by the Constitution, which we all know our republic is being destroyed because we've gone way beyond constitutional boundaries. And the deep state, which comprises rhinos, CINOs, and fascocrats alike, the administrative state now doing more and more outside the bounds of constitutional authority and even oftentimes congressional authority. But the QVF was by that law to be clean and cleared every 5-10 years, whatever that number, in each state. Remove people that have died. Remove people that have moved, therefore no longer qualify to vote at that place they once resided. They have to vote where they moved to. They can't be allowed to stay on Michigan's roll, even though they moved to Florida and vote in both Florida, but pull an absentee ballot for Michigan, saying they're out of state. Well, you moved. You're no longer qualified for a ballot in Michigan. They need to be removed. And of course, now with the left going further, enacting laws that any Tom, Dick, and Harry can claim to be John Doe, get an ID and sign up to vote at a DMV, those illegal and improper available ballots can be voted fraudulently. So those were supposed to be cleared, but like happens in Michigan, every time we go, if we have a Michigan Republican Secretary of State who then actually tries to follow the MVA law and clear the rolls, the left immediately goes to a liberal activist judge and gets it blocked, claiming concern for disenfranchising voters. Well, if you haven't voted in more than 10 years, you still have remedy and ability to vote. You have options now with same-day registration, especially, to reclaim your right to vote as long as you can prove who you say you are and reside where you say you do. But the left doesn't want dead people and illegals and whatever removed, claiming disenfranchisement. What they really want, and aside before I go too much further, also, as Limbaugh would used to say, holding here in my formerly nicotine-stained hand, for those of you seeing on the video, although I never did smoke, I love that Rush line. R.I.P. Rush, we miss you. CTP2, the book, June 2024, the sequel to the original CTP book, not two T's in there, CTP, ChristiTutionalist Politics book that came out August of 2023. The follow-up will be a quotations chapter, which many of you know because you heard the quotations show episode of CTP. I have in there not a direct quote. It is mainly famous people, direct quotes that relate to today's politics. But I have in there, quote, paraphrasing, really, not a direct quote because this isn't quoting anyone in particular, but there is only one reason to not support voter ID: when all states allow for obtaining a free identification option, and that is solely because you want to allow fraud in elections, end quote. And I attribute that, or give the citation of dash to everyone that loves rule of law, which of course is nobody on the left. They want to be able to cheat. I know it, you know it, we all know it, they know it, they just will never admit it. And they often talk about, well, there's no widespread voter fraud. It doesn't require widespread fraud. It only takes a little nudging of things here and there to affect the presidential election. I'm not going to get into the 2020 election other than to say, at the end of the day, with all the shenanigans, it still came down to 44,000 votes across 5 states. That is very easily able for us to overcome in 2024. And it's why they want illegal ballot ability obtaining from the QVF, because they know in blue areas, in blue cities or blue counties where they can fudge the numbers a bit, it doesn't take widespread voter fraud to shift a congressional district election or the POTUS election if you can get it done in the battleground states. So they oppose all that. And they knew they would oppose that all along, but that requirement in the MVA was needed to get Republican votes in order to get it passed for Clinton to sign. And that's how and why we are where we are today. Voter fraud's been going on a long time, obviously. I'm only going to go back to JFK here, because why? The Chicago mob openly boasted that it delivered, quote unquote, Chicago for JFK, thereby giving him Illinois, thereby giving him the entire presidential election. We all know what that meant. We all know what that was about. We all know what was going on. And no, I'm not going to get into the conspiracies of the JFK assassination, as some contend. JFK didn't give them their quid pro quo they were promised, and therefore were involved in his assassination attempt. That's not what this show is about. It's about ID, election integrity, fraud. But all of that relates here. So they knew When they were passing the MVA, they were going to skirt that. In Michigan, we see that all the time. Whenever there's a Republican Secretary of State, they find a liberal activist judge to order an end to the cleaning of the files so that they can have access to ballots they know otherwise wouldn't be voted, that they can access and cast illegal ballots. Now, the other thing is, I'm going to mention the RNC we had turnover. Ronna Rhino Knee McDaniel, as I called her, she was Michigan GOP chair back before she became RNC chair. And again, as to the whole vote count, Trump won Michigan in 2016 by only 10,000 votes. And a lot of us have said that was in spite of Ronna Rhino Knee McDaniel, not because of her, by only 10,000 votes. But Trump didn't listen, and he thought he would reward her, trying to help her become RNC chair. And we've seen the disaster she's made of that. Thankfully, Whatley and Laura Trump are now taking over. And I mention this here because Scott Pressler is out there doing the job more of us need to be doing, registering more people to vote on our side, because there are a lot of people still not even registered to vote, let alone ensuring they then get out to vote on election day so that we know we can count on those votes. Also, Whatley and Trump are talking about legal ballot harvesting. That's the other laws the left passed, all about, oh, we want to make it easier to vote. Well, we on the right have no problem with things being easier to be done, but we know darn well the point and purpose that they're doing it is so that the illegal ballot harvesting aspect that they're engaging in. Whatley and Trump want us, and Pressler has been calling for, and we're doing, others in the national media have been calling for, we legal ballot harvest. We need to get our vote count up. Any legal means necessary. So in states where it is legal to ballot harvest, we need to do that because we know the left is cheating. We know, we've seen it. We have the evidence. You can see the videos. People are testifying all the time to the fraud of Democrat operatives going into senior senators and harvesting the unvoted ballots so they can vote straight Democrat regardless of how the person wants to vote. They're stealing their vote. We know there are Republican votes in these places, but they're going in and grabbing the ballot before they're voted, filling them in for the people, not helping them, voting instead of them, which is and will always still be illegal. But where legal, we need to ballot harvest legal votes for our side. All these things matter. Now, this show isn't about me. This is about us getting out information because sadly, unfortunately, the national talk show hosts, I listen to them, but so many of them are just really not thinkers. They are just talking head parrots. They repeat each other's same old talking points over and over. You're only getting this here. And again, why I ask you to like, share, and subscribe is not about patting me on the back for this being the only place you're going to hear this. No, this is about getting all of us to get that word out more, and to Judicial Watch, who I reached out to. So hopefully they too will talk about these things. Voter ID there is more to that. You can't just get a voter ID law passed and go back to your couch, back asleep, thinking you've done something. You're needed. Again, now, we need voter ID constitutional amendments in each of the 50 states. So it's not just a state law that the left goes to liberal activist courts and work around and avoid and ignore and just overtly undermine laws. In some cases, they helped pass because they want to appear to be doing one thing when they know they're going to do completely the opposite behind the scenes. The left can never be honest about intent. So we need constitutional amendments in each of the states so that these requirements to clean the voter file every 10 years at least as a matter of your state's constitution. Then no state judge can just say, oh, I interpret the law differently, and we're going to block that because, you're going to disenfranchise the Civil Rights Act malarkey, baloney, BS, bogus arguments. Got to be part of the state constitution. And why, again, they want illegal votes to be able to cast. They're constantly talking about disenfranchisement. Well, the real disenfranchisement is when an illegal ballot is cast, an illegal vote is made that then offsets and overturns your legal ballot, your legal vote. That's who's being disenfranchised. Us, not others, who can indeed get a free ID, but should be required to prove they're eligible to vote in order to register to vote. So they aren't illegally disenfranchising our proper legal votes. These things all matter. We need to elevate all these things to the national conscience, which again, now Judicial Watch, hopefully when they drop their article later in March or April or May or whenever, why they're conducting the poll as part of that process, they will have paid attention to us telling them, look, there's more to the story. As Paul Harvey would say, now you know the rest of the story. So liking, sharing, and subscribing is not about me being able to brag, look, my show's got more views than your shows. No, it's about us, the ChristiTutionalist Politics Army, giving more people like the Pantene commercial to know the other things that matter under the surface, behind the scenes, that the left is giving things they know they're going to be able to subvert later, to cheat with. I no doubt am going to forget something because, frankly, if you're looking behind the scenes, you see me wearing a different headset. And I'm only going to mention this on the audio because I recorded this whole show once already. I'm doing it again. Hopefully I'm not forgetting and leaving anything out. But I'm doing that because the audio setup didn't get set up correctly. And the other reason I'm mentioning that is because technical issues. I had a Corsair set, which improved the audio quality of the show. You and I are now discovering, since it stopped working, this new Razer headset, whether the audio quality will be as good, hopefully even better, so that those listening on audio only get a good quality show to hear, and these important points come across clearly to people. But I wanted to mention that. So yeah, I'm having to re-record this whole show have the new headset. Hopefully the audio will now be even better. If not, guess who? Me, your host, will be back at the store looking for yet another option. But I just thought I'd mention that in parting and in closing. Time to wrap things up. See you all again next time. These things matter. You matter. You can't just do A, B, and C and go back to the couch. This is an ongoing battle from now into eternity. The left is never going to give up trying to undermine our republic and find ways to undermine it. You must be awake. You must be involved. Always. It doesn't mean 24/7. Sure, I've wrote a piece, done a show on occasional distractions. I've got another one that will have just recently aired when the UFL starts up again. Certainly, I take time to watch a football game or a hockey game now. You can't be involved 24/7, but also if you've paid attention and more importantly, shared with others the bread and circus episode, we must stop others who are engaged in the bread and circus 24/7 to pry themselves away from the boob tube and being politically involved. One of the quotes in the quotations chapter, I don't have it printed out, I think it's Plato, is that the expense of being uninvolved in politics means being ruled by your inferiors. I'm paraphrasing a bit. That quote will be in CTP to the book. I think I mentioned it in the quotations show and TLB article. You've got to be involved. You probably are if you're listening. Those who are constantly just watching the movie, and I get it. They work, they come from home from a hard day's work, they plop down, they want to relax and put on the boob tube, and they're watching that all night. We need to get them to understand that's okay some of the time, but you need to be involved in politics or the destruction of our republic, Cloward and Piven, bankruptcy style. The end is nigh, to point out another quote, right? The end is near. Complete collapse of this republic is just around the corner. If all of us do not get off our butt, and that means more than just voting on election day. It also really means being involved before a primary. So those who are whining, oh, boy, I don't vote because I don't like the choices we have in November. But where were you in February, March, and April when we were selecting our primary candidates so that we have better candidates to elect in November? You can't just wake up in November, vote, and pretend you've done something. You need to be involved year-round. That means being a delegate. You can't complain about the uniparty because the party is what we make of it. The party platform of the GOP is great, but we need to be involved to make sure rhinos and CNOs aren't the ones that ignore the platform, aren't our candidates. That means us being all involved all the time. Be a delegate so you can go to the meetings, so you help recruit candidates, so you go to your county convention, your state convention if you want, potentially the national convention then if you want. You qualify for those. You don't get to scream from the bleachers at the players, coaches, officials, the cheerleaders, the water boy on the field. That doesn't affect the outcome. You must suit up and be involved to affect the score of the games and the outcome of the season. Please be involved. Again, If you're watching this show, listening to this show, you likely are, but you need to get others to listen or watch the show to understand this. You've probably told them this, but maybe, just maybe, hearing it from somebody else like me will then finally resonate with them or to them. So please, again, like, share, subscribe. Do I need to get on my knees and beg? I will do that. I'm not beyond that. For those of you watching on video, I could literally get down on my knees and beg. And again, it's not about my hubris. It's not about me and my show per se. It's about the message, getting these things that unfortunately not enough other people are talking about, to get them to also talk about these things. So thank you all. Take care. God bless. I appreciate you tuning into this episode.
Thank you for having tuned in for ChristiTutionalist Politics Show. If you haven't already, please check out my primary internationally available book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you. Available anywhere books are sold. If you have locally run bookstores still near you, they can order it for you, or autographed copies are available online direct from me via terrorstrikes.info/shop. Be sure to check out more about today's discussion at thelibertybeacon.com, where my articles drop every Saturday. And let me remind, over time, the fancy high production items will come. But for now, for starters, it's just you as a very appreciated listener by me. All substance, no fluff, no fancy high production intro or inserts, at least yet, just straight to key discussion points. A show that looks at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian U.S. constitutionalist lens. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Take care. God bless.